Today, we are going to talk about what is known as percent of change. Percent of change is if I know the original, let's say, for example, I was driving on Monday down my street, not even my street. I was driving down McBean. And I passed a gas station. And on Monday, the price of gas was $3.71. This morning, so this was on Monday. This morning when I drove by that same Shell station, the price of gas was $3.88. That's today. I want to know, what is the percent of change? Not just how much did it change by, but I want to know what is the percent of change. By what percent did they raise up the price? Yes?
17 cents.
Well, now that's not the percent of change, that's the amount of change. But that gives us a very good start. Because the way we find percent of change is we use the following formula. We say the amount of change over the original amount. So I take the amount of change and I put that over the original amount and I set that equal to n over 100. Why am I setting that equal to n over 100? Because I'm finding a percent, and percent is n over 100. Absolutely correct. So, if we're going to do this problem, we know we had $3.71, which went to $3.88. So as we were already told, the change in the amount was what? Was 17 cents. So that's the amount of change over, what was the original amount? 371. And I'll let that equal n over 100. Now, what should I do? Cross multiply. Okay, so $3.71 times n is what? $3.71 n equals 17 cents times 100 is 17. Now what should I do? Divide what? Divide both sides by? Divide both sides by $3.71. $3.71, okay? So I'm going to be taking 17 and dividing this by 3.71. Now again, I will round to the nearest tenth if I have to. Now, what do I have to do here? Move the decimal. So I'm going to move the decimal to there, and I'll move 2 decimals there. Does 371 go into 1? Does it go into 17? Does it go into 170? Does it go into 1,700?
Yes.
How many times? 5 times? Let's see if that works. We can try 5, and that's 5. That'd be 35. Oh, that's going to give me 18. That's too much, isn't it? So 5 is too much, so what could I use instead? 4. That's 4. 4 times 7 is 28. And 4 times 3 is 12, plus 2 is 14. Okay, let's subtract. I'm going to have to borrow. That's going to be 6, 1, 2. Add a 0 and bring it down. How many times do you think 371 is going to go into 2,160? Six? Let's try 6. That's going to give me 6. That's going to give me 42. That's going to give me 22. That's too much. So I guess it's going to be 5. That's 5. That's 35. 15. That's 18. Okay, we can borrow here and we get 5, 0, 305. Add a 0, bring it down. Let's see, 371 goes into 3,050. How many times?
7, 8,
9 times? I think 9 is going to be a little too big.
8.
8 might be about right. And by the way, even with 8, I won't even have to do this. Because does 8 round that up? So n is going to be approximately 4.6%. Now, was this an increase or a decrease? And I have to write that down. So my answer is approximately a 4.6% increase. No, in this case, I don't have to, because that's the difference between the proportion and the equation. In the proportion, because I'm using n over 100, I don't have to move the decimal over. In the equation, I'm not. That's why I have to move the decimal over in the equation. Okay? Let me give you one to try. Let me give you one to try. Let's take a simple one. 15 yards to 18 yards. Find the percent of change and indicate if it's an increase or a decrease. I'll let you try it. If I do this, I start with the amount of change. What's the amount of change? 3 yards. What is the original distance? 15. And what do I set that equal to? N over 100. Now I will cross multiply. What's 15 times n? 15n equals 300. Now what? Divide both sides by 15. And I get n equals actually 20%, and that's a increase. Does that make sense? Okay, look at this one. Take a look at this one. Let's do two weeks ago you went to your favorite store and your favorite thing costs $15.60. You went last night and it was down to $11.70. What is the percent of change, and is it an increase or a decrease? Let's take a look at this one. If I set this up correctly, what would my proportion look like?
3.9 over 15.6 equals n over 100.
3.9 over 15.6 equals n over 100. Because the change is the difference between the two numbers, which is 3.9. The original is always the first number. That's 15.6, and that equals n over 100.
It's not a negative.
It's not negative. It's always, the change is always going to be positive. The change will always be positive in this case. When I cross multiply, I get 15.6n equals 390. Yes? If I divide both sides by 15.6, what you get is 25%. Is it an increase or a decrease? It is a decrease. Oops, that's spelled wrong. Let's try that again. That's a 25% decrease.
I got 26%.
Check your arithmetic. It should be 25%. Well, no. In this case, because what you're doing here, if you look, you're taking 390 and you're dividing it by 15.6. Well, I move that decimal over and add a 0. 15.6 will go into 390 twice, which will be 12, 11, 3. When I subtract, I get 8, I get 78. Put a 0 down. 5, and that actually comes out to be 780. So it's a 25% decrease.
Put my decimal. I got the right.
Questions on that?
I got 26% by accident because I subtracted.
You subtracted wrong? Okay. Your homework tonight is worksheet percents 9, and it's all about finding the percent of change. Let's go ahead and pass that back.